Hello, and welcome to Crime Analysis, the Fundamentals of the Association Matrix. I'm Eugene Matthews. I'm an assistant professor of criminal justice, and I've been teaching crime analysis to my classes for several years. This video tutorial was originally developed in conjunction with the courses that I've taught and the ideas and the theories behind crime analysis. Specifically, with regard to the association matrix, I consider it one of the fundamental building blocks for any analytical investigative efforts that are made. One of the key ingredients to the association matrix is the ability to identify and credibly integrate bits and pieces of information in some cohesive and understandable manner. These are the fundamentals of the association matrix, and so some of the information may seem rudimentary, but I assure you that it's all essential. As I like to think of it, the association matrix is an investigative tool, and it can assist you in, or the investigator, in visually representing or depicting relationships between two or more entities of interest. The process for the association matrix is threefold. It's focus, collate, construct, and draw. And if you are able to follow this process, you can be more successful in your efforts at identifying whatever the information is that's otherwise obscured or hidden from you. When effectively focused, I believe that the analytical results from the association matrix can clearly depict the existence or strength or reliability of relationships between entities of interest. Now, I've identified an entity of interest here, or entities of interest here, as businesses, individuals, locations, organizations, property, and other. The key here is to focus on the entity of interest as a physical attribute, having a physical attribute, something that you can touch or physically see, as opposed to an ideal or a theology or a theory. Now, I understand that there will be some who consider intellectual property also a entity of interest, and while that is true, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to simplify it and just focus in on those qualities of entities that have a physical attribute. The goal of any investigation, I believe, any research, any fact-finding effort, to hopefully decipher and make known what was otherwise hidden or obscure. As such, crime analysis as a technique founded on the association matrix is going to give you results that otherwise you might have overlooked or would not have been quite as easy to identify. From a group or a crowd or a collection of disparate pieces of information, you'll be able to clearly identify those key entities or interests that are most important or valid or valued with regard to your investigative effort. Let's use an example that I've used many times here. You can stop the video and read this example through, but essentially it's going to cover a scenario that I've put together that will walk us through how to create an association matrix. If you've already restarted the video, here what you've seen is, or what you see next is how I've highlighted some of the key entities of interest. And again, you can stop the video, read through this, and then simply restart the video whenever you're ready. To further collate as a methodology that focuses or that follows the association matrix process, the first was to focus. The investigative focus in this case is going to be on a suspected fraud investigation. The collation of the information in this case is collecting up all the key entities of interest and identifying who they are and how they may have a part in the particular investigation. The images that are used here are for demonstration purposes, and they are not necessarily reflective of anything that's available in the real world. So what I've done now is I've taken those entities of interest based on the information that was the scenario, and I've did them and placed them out here for your ease, for our ease of looking at it. Fifth Street used Anderson, M.A. Towing, Michaels, and then Lincoln University. Something that you may or may not be able to clearly see is that I've identified the entities of interest that are not people, the entities of interest that are not people, and I've left the entities of interest that are actual people in black. This will coincide and correspond with future videos with regard to how to branch into the association matrix and how to fully automate that. And in fact, when we get to a particular tool that I'm going to highlight, RF Flow, which you can find online at www.rff.com, it already highlights and does the same type of depiction. It will highlight the information for entities of interest that are not people in blue, and then leave the individuals or entities of interest that are people. To get back to our scenario, we've identified these key entities of interest with regard to the overall scenario. Now, keep that part in mind as we focus now in on how to construct an association matrix. In order to fully construct an association matrix and to glean the nuances, if you will, as to what is required, I want to step you through what the association matrix looks like and then how to read it, as well as how to create or generate your own association matrix based on the information that you would have available to you. Association matrix is really nothing more than a series of, or a collection of information that you might be able to see. In this case, I'm saying that the corresponding block between B and E are the same as the corresponding block over here between B and E. As simple as that might seem, for some that could be a little bit complex. When you take and superimpose that over something as simple as a chart, then it makes a little bit more sense. If you've seen the paper mileage charts, or perhaps those that are online, the distance between Oakland and San Diego correspondent with B and E prior to is 500 miles. Similarly, the distance between San Diego and Oakland is still 573 miles. Regardless of, or in the upper right portion, the distance is still the same. So when constructing the association matrix, if you simply divide that line, divide that matrix in half, you can create a clear delineation here. San Francisco to Oakland is 13 miles, Oakland to San Francisco is still 13 miles, etc. As you go down, you'll see that the numbers are identical. In our association matrix, the easiest thing is to get rid of this top half. By doing that, you are left with the same information, but without all the extra noise that's on top. Again, that Oakland is still 578 miles away from San Diego or San Francisco. There's no change. It's the same amount of mileage that was shown in the previous chart, or as we were looking, Oakland and San Diego 573 miles, Oakland and San Diego 573 miles. There's no change. It's the same thing. If you get rid of the miles there, you're still left with this same matrix chart. If you, whatever you place in this block between Oakland and San Diego would still be the exact same correlation between Oakland and San Diego anywhere else. Okay, so from there we then add in lines, just a couple of lines outside to better identify which trek each of the entities of interest takes care of. So everything that's up in this trek follows this line. Everything that's in this area follows this line and is responsible also for what comes across. So if you take the San Francisco, Sacramento, LA, and San Diego information and add it to the side, you're still looking at the regular association matrix, the same thing in the mind. There's no real change. All we're going to do then is take the information we have gleaned from our scenario and superimpose that information into our association matrix. And now you're left with Anderson, Michaels, 5th Street Used Car, A1 Auto Salvage, and MA Towing, and Linkages. What you've now is created your first association matrix simply by enrolling the entities of interest into your association matrix. Reading it is just as simple. One of the things that we'll cover right now is to simplify how to understand and identify the different relationships between entities. What we will 3 common symbols. We'll use a closed circle, an open circle, and the plus sign. The closed circle represents the strong or known association or relationship between entities of interest. The open circle represents the weak or suspected relationship between entities of interest. And then the key or plus sign indicates a key individual or owner, CEO, manager, boss, or somebody who's a principal or significant to an entity of interest. Now don't be confused with key individual versus strong association. A key individual is usually and typically the owner of something, and that something should usually be property of some sort. The larger your investigation or the larger, more involved your inquiry is or your research, the greater the is going to look. Now, while this may seem at first glance to be somewhat cumbersome, I assure you that simply by enrolling your information that you get, the information you glean from your scenarios or from the actual investigations that you're looking at, just by enrolling those key entities of interest here, you will vastly improve your investigative efforts and also improve the likelihood of getting the case solved or identifying the obscure information. What we did now is to go back to the scenario and identify points that identify relationships. So if you want to pause the video and review, you'll note that Anderson owns MA Towing. Also, Michaels owns A1 Auto Salvage and 5th Street Used Cars. Anderson and Michaels are brothers-in-law. A1 Auto Salvage only permits MA Towing on their lot. MA Towing receives a disproportionate number of service calls to Lincoln University. Now the last point, which deals with something beyond the scope of this video, is that 5th Street Used Cars restores and resales vehicles received from A1 Auto Salvage. This will hopefully be picked up in future videos, or in at least one more future video that corresponds with creating the link chart. What I've identified here is simply bulletized comments of the relationships between entities of interest. The way that those relationships are going to be reflected is using those 3 charting tools. The fact that Anderson owns MA Towing would be reflected as a plus sign. He is a key or significant interest owner of another entity of interest. Michaels owns A1 Auto Salvage and 5th Street Cars, so that intersection would be represented by a plus sign. He is again a key or significant individual or entity of interest with regard to both of those 5th Street Used Cars and A1 Auto Salvage. Anderson and Michaels are brothers-in-laws. Now this is a strong relationship or a strong association simply because it's known. It's something that can be validated and verified if necessary, and in this scenario it was verified or validated through court records, court documents, or other types of valid investigative efforts. The fact that A1 Auto only permits MA Towing on their lot could be a strong association. It may be a weak association depending on the level of proof or validity you have that would substantiate that particular claim. MA Towing receives a disproportionate number of service calls to Lincoln University. Again, that could be a weak association. It might be strong, depending on the level of information you have to substantiate that particular claim. The way this would be represented in your association matrix is Anderson and Michaels having a strong association with each other. This is strong and is known. They are brothers having a key entity of interest with Fifth Street Used Cars and with A1 Auto shows as a plus symbol. Michaels, Fifth Street Used Cars, Michaels, and A1 Auto. Anderson is the key entity of interest for MA Towing. Here's Anderson represented on this line. The plus symbol, which is represented here as the key or significant individual, corresponds with MA Towing. And then finally, MA Towing having a weak association with Lincoln University based on the information that was presented in the scenario that Lincoln University had a number of vehicles towed by MA Towing. One other key of interest here is A1 Auto and MA Towing having a strong association. Now again, this may be validated through surveillance or through some other second or third party information source or investigation. The next thing that I wanted to explore was the tool that I had mentioned already, which is RF Flow. In RF Flow, one of the things that happens is after you've enrolled your entities of interest and after you've identified your relationships, whatever those relationships are, RF Flow will then count the number of links. Now in this simplified example, the links are pretty easy to count. But you'll note, Anderson has 2 links. His link with Michaels and his link with MA Towing. Michaels has 3 links. Fifth Street Used Cars has 2 links. A1 Auto Salvage has 3. MA Towing has 3 and Lincoln has 1. Why this might be of key significance or value to you as the investigator or the conducting the fact finding is that whichever entity of interest has the greatest number of linkages, or associations may be where you want to focus your investigative efforts. One of the things that many investigators have found is that when faced with a great deal of information, it can be somewhat daunting to determine where do you start. In this case, once you've created your association matrix and developed your links between the entities of interest, that information can become pretty widely and pretty quickly visible. The amount of effort and resources that one could save simply by focusing their investigative efforts is unimaginable. Now to simplify and automate this process, what I've depicted thus far is the manual process for creating your association matrix. The tool that I want to discuss or introduce is RF Flow. This is a rather advanced tool, however, it's simple in its use. It's one of the out-of-the-box tools that investigators have used for many, many years. It's very useful in that it has a lot of flexibility, and the simplicity of the tool, particularly with regard to creating the association matrix, makes it even more powerful. So next, change screens and go into RF Flow. So here we are in RF Flow. Once you're in RF Flow, one of the things that you would do, one of the things that you would see, is the first screen. The first screen that shows up would be this screen that has the same conventions as you would find in any of the Microsoft Office or Microsoft products. You have, of course, the file, the edit, how to do the insert tools and that sort of thing. Once you log into RF Flow, once you've downloaded your copy, you can go into what is the Tools function. The Tools function then allows you to go over to Auto Charts, and because we're working with Association Matrix at this time, click on the Association Matrix. Once you're in the Association Matrix, you can create your association matrix based on the information in your particular scenario. So, in this case, one of the things that we want to, let's walk through some the information that's necessary for you to know. The file, of course, gives you a chance to add, undo, and copy. We'll get to in a moment. Viewing it is something to do once you've created your association matrix prior to printing it. And then inserting the CSV file. If you have the information saved in a Microsoft Excel or other spreadsheet files saved as a comma delimited file, you can actually upload it into RF Matrix and create an association matrix from there. That's a little advanced for the video for this tutorial, and perhaps we'll be able to look at that a little bit later. Finally, tools and alphabetize are a couple of things that you're going to look at and see as we create our association matrix based on our scenario. The help feature is one of the most comprehensive help features I've seen in any software package. And any information that you have or any questions that you have can generally be answered right here by going to the help. So for our purposes, the first thing we're going to do is add a title. The title of our scenario is just going to be fraud. The agency can be whatever your agency is, and in this case my agency is going to be Sherlock Holmes. The case number would be the case number or the file number, reference number that you would associate with your particular case. And then, of course, the case analytic. Well, in this case, I'm just going to add in a fictitious case analyst. And then the date. The date is actually quite critical because as an investigation or query continues, the information is going to change. If you saved each file as a different file and you saved it with a different date, you can actually show the progress of the investigation from day to day or week to week or every time that you update your investigative query. Why that might be useful is particularly with regard to after the investigation has been completed, after the findings have been made known. Then when others come back to relook or revisit your investigative efforts, there's a clear path as to how you got from point A to point B. So in this case, one of the things I want to do is show you how to enroll information into your association matrix. I realize that it looks rather blank now. We're about to change that. We're going to stick with the same information that we had in our previous scenario, and so I'm going to start with Anderson. Once you click into the white screen, you'll see that there's a blinking bar. Just begin to type normally. In this case, I'm going to put in Anderson, and because Anderson is represented as a person, I'm going to add name. The next person is Michaels, and because Michaels is a person, again, I will add name. And you will just continue this until added in all your entities of interest. So I'll just add the rest here. 5th Street Used Cars. Is not a person, it's an interest or an entity of interest that is not a person, so we'll add it as a business. A1 Auto, again, is a business. MA Towing, also added in as a business. And then finally, Lincoln University, which is another entity of interest. Whether it was a business or some other type of organization is almost immaterial for our purposes here. All we know is that it is not a person, so we won't use the name. We'll use add a business. What you see here is that same reticle scale that's been divided that I displayed to you earlier in the video. So now what we want to do is add in our linkages, our connections, our relationships. One of the things you'll note is that when you have, aside from the coloration, one of the things you'll note is that when you go into the blocks to add in your associations, those blocks change as the entities of interest change. For example, if you right-click in the block between Anderson and Michaels, you'll receive 3 options. The options are that Anderson has a known association. If you select that, it'll turn red. The other option is Anderson has a suspected relationship. If you select that, it'll be an empty circle. And then finally, Anderson has no association. So if you select that, the block will remain clear. In this case, based on the scenario, we know that Anderson has a known association with Michaels. Immediately, you have this correlation between Anderson and Michaels and this correlation between Michaels and Anderson. The next thing we want to talk about, or just demonstrate, is the correlations between people and non-people, or people and things. And it doesn't matter which side of the association matrix you complete, as it will be replicated on the other side. So in this case, we know that Michaels owns Fifth Street cars. Now, when you click into the white space here between Michaels and Fifth Street used cars, you'll be met with 4 choices. Michaels has a known association, Michaels has a suspected association, he has no association, or he's a key individual. We've already identified that Michaels is a key individual of Fifth Street used cars, so when you select that, the plus sign will appear. Now I'm going to pause the video as I go about completing the rest of these associations, and then I'll return the video. Okay, so I've completed the association matrix by filling out those entities of interest, adding in the relationships between the entities of interest. And now I wanted to add in one more thing. I'll show you what this looks like before I add in the last thing, which is going to be an association between Lincoln University and something. As you'll note, all your entities of interest should be owned or have a key relationship or connection with some person or some other entity of interest. They aren't generally just out there floating by themselves. So for Lincoln University, we're going to create an unknown entity of interest, because we know that in all actuality there's somebody who's in charge of that university, most likely the university president, although it could be the board of curators. Some entity of interest is in charge of Lincoln University, and that's what they will be associated with, or that's how Lincoln will be associated with entity of interest. So to reflect what this looks like, if you were to print it, we'll go up here to View, and this is what your association matrix would look like if printed. Note, as explained before, all of the entities of interest were automatically counted up, with Anderson having 2, Michaels having 3, Fifth Street used car having 3, and so on down the line. Now, if I were to add an entity of interest, in this case I'm going to add an unknown, because I don't know actually who owns Lincoln University. When I do so, it's just going to show up as the last entity of interest. So to associate Lincoln University with the unknown, I would simply go to Lincoln University, right-click it, and then say whoever the unknown is the key individual. Now, how does that change the overall look? Well, first, if you go to the view again, you'll see now that Lincoln University has 2 entities of interest. 2 instead of simply 1. That unknown should always go and correspond with whatever is unknown with regard to the entity of interest. So if there was an additional business that was implicated in this investigation, that business would be added, and then whoever was the owner or the key individual would also be added as the business owner. Okay, so that essentially wraps up how to do the association matrix, how to create it, how to construct it, what it's about. The last thing that you would do, of course, is to go to the file, save your entity of interest, save your association matrix in a particular to a particular file format, and then print it. After printing it, then of course you could display that in any number of ways. You can add your association matrix to a PowerPoint slide, you can add it into an email, you can distribute it in a number of different ways. So in conclusion, I wanted to bring you back to the RF flow, and again encourage you to get your own fully functioning copy of RF flow by visiting them at www.rff.com. And if you're interested in becoming a better investigator or having better investigative tools at hand, this would be one of the best tools that you could make a minor investment into. But the first thing you want to do is just simply check it out. Well, as always, if you have any questions regarding this video or the information that's presented in it, you can contact me by going to my website at www.ledcom.com. Again, my name is Eugene Matthews. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.